The Syrian Civil War. The violent purge within Syria began in March of 2011. The atrocities were carried out by the Ba'ath Party, which was led by President Bashar al-Assad. The Assad family held power in Syria since 1971. And many rebels in Syria wanted to push this family out of power. Unlike many other Middle Eastern leaders, the Assad family was not that religious, so the people were not protesting against extreme Islamists, something we have seen before within the Middle Eastern countries. On March 6, 2011, children were jailed for spray painting anti-regime graffiti. Some of these children were killed in detention, a major human rights violation. Due to this, many people started protesting, and this spread across the country very quickly. Along with those who were killed, the perpetrators were never punished. Moreover, the people were already unhappy with the declining economic and political conditions in the country. Graffiti was inspired by other countries, and in order to suppress this, the government took action. The Syrian army fired on protesters and the war began. By July 2011, the Free Syrian Army had formed. The militia was a combo of local tribal groups, people who left the Syrian military and disaffected locals, and the jihadists joined their group too. While the whole world was focused on Ukraine, Bashar al-Assad had started atrocities towards the people of Syria.
Roger Shanahan, former peacekeeper in Syria, said that many of the Sunni Muslims in Syria support Assad's regime rather than the opposition, and for that reason he was elected again as the president for the third time. However, Syria runs on a dictatorship rather than a democracy, so it's not shocking.
The Assad regime launched violent attacks on activists, where the Syrian government attacked rebel-held areas with poisonous chlorine gas. This wasn't the first use of chemical weapons in Syria. The Syrian regime has used chemical weapons on a small scale against the opposition multiple times in the last year, including the Damascus suburbs, says one of the oppositions. The reported symptoms of victims included unconsciousness, foaming from the nose and mouth, constricted pupils, rapid heartbeat, and difficulty breathing. The Obama administration also claims that the Syrian government fired rockets loaded with nerve gas on opposition-controlled parts of the Damascus suburbs on August 21st, 2013. The attack reportedly killed 1,429 people, including 426 children. The 1925 Geneva Protocol first prohibited the use of poisonous gas as a weapon of war. The 1993 Chemical Weapons Convention then went even further and outlawed the production, stockpile, transfer, and use of chemical weapons. Interestingly, Syria did sign the 1925 Geneva Protocol, which prohibits the use of chemical weapons in war after World War I, but clearly they have broken the law way too many times by attacking their own civilians. The allegations are on President Assad for gas attacks on his own Syrian civilians. The President Assad claims that he had much to lose and his enemies had much to gain from the use of chemical weapons. For what it's worth, Assad has denied the chemical weapons claim in an interview with the French newspaper Fiaco. Russian President Vladimir Putin has also played down these charges, saying, "We have no data that those chemical substances. It is not yet clear whether it was chemical weapons or simply harmful chemical substances were used precisely by the government army." President Assad speaks of mistakes that have been made, but doesn't really admit any. In terms of the actions he has taken in the conflict, he is convicted he's done the right thing, or at least he wants to give that impression. He says the West is guilty of intensifying the crisis because it doesn't understand what's happening within Syria.
Many of the civilians have been killed in the process of targeting government officials, while others have been targeted by the Syrian army. It may be astonishing, but many were killed for